Give an overview. We will start with a quick program introduction, followed by introductions to our panelists today. Panelists will discuss their career paths and offer advice for students considering entering into this field. The event will conclude with the opportunity for Q&A. At any time, please feel free to write any questions you have in the chat. We will answer them at the end of the presentation during the Q&A session. You will also have an opportunity to ask any questions out loud by using the hand raise option on Zoom. This session will be recorded and the video link will be shared via email. In the meantime, we've shared links. Evan has shared links in the chat for the program, so please peruse them. So I guess we can get started with this presentation. So the LifeSci NYC Internship Program is part of the city's initiative to grow the life science industry. The New York City Economic Development Corporation, NYC EDC, has a 10-year, $1 billion initiative to grow the life science in New York City. So it's really a really growing field in multiple sectors and verticals. The program offers paid internships and part-time and full-time job opportunities for both undergraduate and graduate students in either the science track or business management track during the academic year in the summer. To date, we've placed over 750 college and graduate students into internships of 180 life science companies and nonprofit organizations in New York City. We currently have over 50 open career-focused internships and jobs, with more coming in all the time. This is a single location where you can complete one application and have access to job listings at multiple companies. We are doing all the research for you, so you don't have to figure out what companies are currently hiring. So what are business and marketing careers in the life sciences? It might not be the first to go to for a lot of people that are studying business, but every single sort of company needs people that know how to sell a product, how to market a product, how to lead strategy, how to organize and manage personnel within an organization. And this starts from the startups all the way to large academic medical centers and large companies such as Pfizer, and every sort of organization in between. So, either you could be somebody with a business background that has an interest in the life sciences that can get or some experience in the life science or want to, or you could be someone with a life science degree or STEM degree or tech degree, and you can pivot and use those technical skills with some professional skills and experience, business-related experiences to kind of break into that field. And there's a lot of different scope, and we have 4 different panelists that I'm really happy to kind of introduce. Jesse, Nicole, Binta, and Yoan. I really appreciate them taking the time to during the work week to talk about their career trajectory and what they're currently doing. So I guess we'll start with some introductions. I guess Jesse, you can start. And we're asking each panelist to quickly provide a 3 to 4 minute introduction, and then we'll go forward from there.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey everyone, really nice to meet you all. I see myself spotlighted here, so I'm going to zoom out again so I can see everyone's faces. Yeah, thanks so much for taking the time for today. I'll give a quick intro with my academic background, what I do today, my current role, and then a quick summary of my career path to date. So I went to Columbia, so shout out to the Columbia and Barnard folks here. I saw you. I was Columbia 2014. I studied industrial engineering with minors in economics and entrepreneurship. And I actually just moved back to Brooklyn, or I moved to Brooklyn in August, and this is my first time living in New York as an adult, so it's kind of fun to be back in New York after school. My current role is I'm at Breakthrough Energy, and they have a fellows program that's kind of like an early stage incubator for climate tech startups. And so scientists will work on a technology that they've developed. They'll join the program, and then business people like me will help build kind of like the business scaffolding around that technology. So really to make sure that it's a commercially successful and viable company. And that matters because we care a lot about addressing climate change and reducing carbon footprints, but large companies or consumers generally don't pay more for a company or for a product just because it's more sustainable. So the onus and the bar is actually higher. So you have to build a better product at the same cost and reduce the carbon footprint. And so our job is to help those scientists develop businesses that are sustainable. Summary of my career path to date. So after I graduated, well, actually, so broadly speaking, my career has had like a phase in the kind of science and math to business, and then now I'm more kind of at this intersection of both. So in high school, I was doing a lot more science research in the lab, went to Columbia Industrial Engineering, and then after school, and during school, I was doing internships in finance. And then after school, I went to McKinsey & Company. So McKinsey is a management consulting firm, and we work with large companies to solve kind of different problems that they're facing. I spent a lot of my time in the industrial space, chemicals, mining, et cetera. So I was there for 2 years, and I left because at the time, data science and like AI wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now, but it was growing, and I felt like I was missing the boat. And so I went to San Francisco, where I joined a data science startup as a product manager. And I was there for a few years. But then when I was at that startup, I then started to think more about kind of the impact that I wanted to have on the world, what I wanted to do with my career, and decided to pivot and go into the kind of the broader food and ag space. And I have kind of more to say about that, but broadly, I think it's important that everyone here also thinks about kind of what you want, kind of what problems you're interested in solving, and then starting to kind of move it and focus your career in that space. It matters a lot, kind of what things you care about. Anyways, sorry, I'm going long. So I went to business school to pivot into food and ag, climate, oceans, and things like that. So I was at Harvard for my MBA, where I was there for the last 2 years, exploring that space. I worked on a startup in the life sciences, working with a scientist, a genetic engineer, and we were using microalgae as like a biomanufacturing platform. And then after that, I'm now at Breakthrough Energy, and so that's kind of the intersection of having some of that life sciences, math and science background, doing the business track, and then now back at this intersection of working with early stage scientists. So I'll stop there.
That's great. That's a very interesting career trajectory. A lot of great experiences. Thank you for your participation. Yoan?
Yes, hi. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I recently graduated from City College with a Bachelor's of Science in Biotechnology. I'm currently as a data science system admin at Pfizer, a remote role since June 2022 as an intern, and then it was kept on. The role involves a lot of data management, managing. So it's the intersection of biology and data management skills. I work a lot with documentation related to tech transfer and regulatory agency approval, as well as testing and analysis of some of our SharePoint sites for storing that documentation. My career path has been also quite diverse. I started as a computer science major, and then I transferred into science for health profession, and then I realized I wanted to mix both of them. So I went into biotechnology, which seemed to be the best path forward. From there, I held many roles as I had an internship at BioBus as a support community scientist, and also another one as a junior scientist at one point. Apart from that, I also was an assistant manager at the 9/11 Museum. But yeah, that's a bit of about me.
Nicole?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Nicole. I graduated from Hunter College in 2022. While I was there, I was in the CUNY BA program. So I didn't have an official major. We call it an area of concentration. So I did underserved populations health studies, and I'm primarily focused on women's health. So I did a lot of research in my senior year into the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the implications that would have on women. And then my current role, I'm a Biotech Investor Relations Analyst at Stern Investor Relations, which is a subsidiary of Precision Medicine Group. So what I do is we operate at the intersection of banking, sell side, and investors. We're really helping companies to communicate their science in a way, take it down from PhD level down to investor level, helping them communicate all of that, helping them disclose their data at the right medical meetings, a lot of communicating science with a lot of different stakeholders for these companies. And I can go into more detail if anyone's interested about like the day-to-day of what I do. And then a summary of career path up until this point, I'd say I actually started as an engineering major, so I was not expecting to end up where I am. But then I ended up finding out I don't like engineering, and I was transferring into health sciences. And while I was studying like taking all these science classes, trying to gear up for me to potentially do a med school application, I was only really shown options that were within, like, you can go be a nurse, you can go be a PA, an MD. Those are the options I saw. And I worked at a hospital like over a summer, and I just found out, I was like, oh, like I'm really committed to life sciences. I find science overall like fascinating, but I found out that I wasn't meant to be like on like day-to-day working with patients. And so that's when I was like, okay, what can I do that can leverage this interest of mine in science while also still staying within the health, like, while not having to go to school and maybe find out after all those years of school. So I ended up choosing to go do a fellowship at Deerfield Management. So they're a healthcare specialist hedge fund. So I had a fellowship with them. And then I found out, I was like, oh, well, I really like this intersection of science and business. And then I was looking for a full-time role and found the role I'm at.
That's great. And our last panelist, Binta.
All right, so now I'm muted. Good evening, everybody. So similarly to a couple of my other fellow panelists, I graduated from Hunter College in 2019. I majored in human biology. So there goes my, science background. I did go to a math and science high school, so that's always been my strong suit, math and science. But I've always had a passion for healthcare and, just growing up and being fascinated with the hospital setting. But eventually I realized that, maybe, working with patients really wasn't for me. And then I'm currently working at Havas Health You. We recently had our LifeSci alumni party there, which is really fun. Any of you who are interested in LifeSci, once you join in the family, you'll be invited. No worries. So yes, I work at Havas. I'm a client support specialist, but it's within the finance unit. Our job title could be a little misleading, but we do finances with a plethora of pharmaceutical clients, and it's an advertising agency. Next on the list, I wrote some notes down. So what I do day to day is a lot of revenue recognition. I do the reporting on the finance side. Currently, the business unit that I have, it's about 20 clients. So the first, couple weeks of the month, I'm kind of running my reports, having finance meetings with my account and project managers. We do, that's where we track spending on projects. And we, they let me know how much they want to bill the clients. And we kind of make sure that we're within budget. So just constantly tracking the finances for a plethora of projects. That I could go more into depth about what I do day to day as well. But that's kind of what I do. I invoice the clients on a monthly basis. I work with the various teams to track projects and track their spending, and pretty much in a nutshell, make sure our finances are in order. And my career trajectory, that's the last thing on the list. I started off wanting to become a pre-med student. So straight out of high school, I actually did this program at Mount Sinai School of Medicine. It's a MEDOX program. We got to dissect hearts and do all kinds of interesting things in the laboratory. which was always fun to me. And I'm someone who likes to use my hands a lot. But at some point, learning about the trajectory of going to medical school and kind of just finding my niche and finding my way, I've also had a strong suit for math. And I learned about the business side of healthcare. And ever since I got exposed to that, it just tracked, it was a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, this is exactly, it combines my love for the math, sciences. I'm more analytical, and then I'm still making an impact in the healthcare and life sciences space. So that's how I ended up here at Havas. And of course, I'm a former LifeSci fellow. I've did a couple internships with LifeSci in the nonprofit space. So I also, something that was really big for me is to always do work that has a purpose. And you see the impact that it has on communities. So that's kind of where I am.
That's great. And it's always great for alumni to be on these panels. Binta and Yoan, thank you for being here and giving back. So going on that note, I guess, like, what advice would you offer a student that's kind of interested? A lot of it seems like many of you were switch, like, different between fields, like you kind of finding your way. What advice would you offer students interested in switching, either from just general business to life sciences, or somebody that's not a business major right now, let's say like a science, engineering, or tech major, that wants to go more onto the business side?
Yeah, I can jump in. I'd like to say, like, really don't be discouraged by a lot of the narratives. Well, I got a lot of messages when I was transferring and majors and switching up my path, saying like, oh, this is going to be such a big setback. Like, you've taken all these courses, you're going to lose these credits. On one hand, yes, it was painful having to pay for a few extra courses. But on the other hand, like, at the end, like, being a sophomore or being even a junior, senior, like, it's really not too late to switch. That is the time to switch. Don't feel as if you're stuck in your path. And also, personally for me, I found, like, when I was looking towards, like, oh, should I just graduate right now, or should I stay for an extra year and like finish out all the credits I would need? Like, I think I wasn't finished with like OChem or stuff like that. Because I had various different credits from different places. They were like, I would have needed to stay to finish everything I would have needed to apply to med school. And I made the decision to go and try out the business world, because I said, the business world, if I don't like it, what happens? I just quit. I start studying for the MCAT. I started enrolling in classes. But to me, it was a much bigger opportunity cost to go and say, like, I'm not going to try out this business side. I'm going to go full into continuing my education. Whereas, like, I think education is incredible, but I would have never known that I have such like a much greater aptitude for this side of the life sciences business area than I do for being in the academia or patient facing side.
That's great. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add that you don't be afraid of taking on opportunities where you feel like you're not necessarily ready, or you don't have the knowledge that it takes to be in there. Be upfront with whoever you're applying with or whatever you want to do, and take a chance on yourself. Just go for it. I personally didn't have any experience on anything I'm doing right now. And I told my manager when I was applying, and he was like, you'll learn. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'm down to learn. And I'm a quick learner. So yeah, don't take a chance on yourself. Don't be afraid. Go for it.
Yeah, if I could add on, I think I wouldn't feel really tied to your current major or kind of your current area of specialty. I think just as Joan said, like, when you join a company and are kind of doing a job, you're going to be learning those job specific skills on the job anyway. And so don't count yourself out. And then if you are interested in different spaces, I try to find ways to test those hypotheses and like kind of test them cheaply and quickly. You can talk to people who are already in those jobs. You can like watch YouTube videos about day in the life. And I don't think it's ever kind of too late to be switching careers or industries or functions. I think early on in your career, and I say this, I think among the students here have, as I'm 10 years out of school, like even myself, I'm changing careers in industries. My classmates in my MBA, a lot of them went to MBA to change careers. Like, so there's like, yeah. So don't feel like wherever you go first after undergrad is gonna lock you in to a certain industry sector or a function, et cetera. There's just so much flexibility, and like you can always chart your course and kind of look back and be able to tell a story as to like how you made those decisions. So anyway, that's my, yeah, like be flexible, and there's plenty of time and space to make mistakes or kind of different decisions.
Yeah, and to just jump off of what Jesse just said, when he said test it out, you test it out with internships. So take advantage. If you see something that you probably like, I wonder what that's about. You know, there's the portal with LifeSci. Just check out and see what internships are available. Internships are honestly the best way to kind of, you know, sample it. You know, when you go to a buffet and you take a little sample, just sample and see what you like. You never know what you will end up finding your passion in. And like everyone on the panel said, don't be afraid to take that risk. And it's not the end of the world. Anyone who's in their current field can tell you that they've, you know, everyone's journey is different. You're going to take a left turn, right turn, until you find something that, you know, you really enjoy doing. So.
Those were some pretty good perspectives and advice. What courses and experiences did you find most helpful in preparing you for your current career? Anyone want to chime in?
I can start. Personally, there's no particular course that helped me. I'll say a combination of all of them. Like I had a biotechnology lab, for example, that helped me with data analysis. I work with RStudio, with SQL to analyze data. And also most of my biology labs where I had to use RStudio and SQL, and also review documentation in the lab or read a lot of essays. Yeah, so mostly a combination of all of the courses that you take, and don't take them separately. The skills that you have are kind of a mix and match of everything that you're doing. It's not just one thing in particular.
I will really agree with you there, because there was no course that could have prepared me for this job. Like, I think the writing work that I did in college has helped me overall. The reading papers that were above my knowledge level and being able to having to figure it out, because a lot of the times when you're on the job, like specifically I answer to clients. If a client has an ask, I need to at least do my very best before we go back to them and say like, oh, we need to like rethink this. So it's a lot about taking what you do have in your toolbox and using that effectively, and like none of it's going to be like the direct notes you're taking. It's all going to be like, can you come and take out the big picture of something of that sort? It's a lot about like the thinking skills, being able to accurately articulate ideas and create a plan and like strategy and move forward with that.
Yeah, Nicole, you're spot on. I agree 100%. It's less about the actual classes you're taking. But I can mention two classes that definitely sparked my interest. I did take a medical anthropology class and a medical sociology class. And like Nicole and Yoan even mentioned, it's the skills that you learn in those classes And maybe many of you can relate to this. Nicole, you also went to Hunter, so we know some courses you have to do a lot of self-teaching. And not to say that in a lot of these roles you have to teach yourself, because most of the time when you join, they'll teach you the ropes of the business about your role. But there are instances where you have to step into that hat of problem solving. That's when you utilize those skills that you had in undergrad. And for some people in your master's programs, finding answers, problem solving, analyzing data. Don't be afraid to ask questions, of course, but these particular skills are what set you apart from, you want to be the best that you can be at any position that you are in. So it's mostly the skills that you hone out of taking these courses that will prepare you most for any role, whether it's a business side of things or clinical or in a laboratory, for sure.
Okay, you mentioned a class and it jogged my memory of another class. I think it's called like Biology 2500 at Hunter for the Hunter students here, but essentially this bio writing course. I can't remember the professor's name at the moment, but he really pushed me to become a better writer. And that's like learning, if you're going to go into an intersection of sciences and business, like being able to write and articulate your thoughts really clearly is really important.
Yeah. And then just one more thing, translating that into simple English, because everyone you encounter, I might have some finance terminologies that only the finance team would understand. So when I talk to my account team, they're like, what are you talking about? We use a lot of abbreviations. So translating your information or research that you do into simple English, that's a big part of, I feel like that's across the board within the life sciences.
And I can jump in just with not a class, but I think a job that was most impactful for me was my first job coming out of college. I think going into management consulting, I think coming back to some of the comments around problem solving, like you learn problem solving skills in classes that you can apply to jobs. And then I think as a management consultant, you're just approaching, and for those of you who haven't been exposed to that as much, I think it's worth a Google to learn a little bit more, but you're basically being brought onto like different client sites to help the executive teams work through different problems in all kinds of different industries that you're never going to have the industry expertise for. So you're really just honing your skills in problem solving, structuring problems in spaces that you're not familiar with. And I think that's super powerful, not just in your future professional career, but also your personal career. And how do you then get into what Nicole was talking about around a lot of these other kind of generalist skills, communication, managing stakeholders, talking to people and kind of building your professional foundation. I think management consulting is quite useful.
Well, it's really great. I guess like, the key takeaway is that, use, a lot of your different experience, get a wider range of experiences and skills, and then just really develop and hone in on them when you go into the workforce. I guess on that note, what would you say would be like some misconceptions that you kind of had going into more of a business side, like especially the ones that came from STEM backgrounds to the business side of the industry? Of like the nature of the work or the industry itself. Yeah.
I think there's this big misconception that finance is really complicated and that business is really complicated. I really think that's the business finance part of my job is the easiest part of my job. Like there's so many resources. YouTube is a great resource even, but beyond that, I used Wall Street Prep, which is a bit expensive. So that one take with a grain of salt, but Bloomberg Market Concepts, they have this like little certification you can do that just like takes you through like finance 101, the economy 101 type of thing. and it gives you great context. And I know that I think for CUNY students, I'm not sure if they always have this, but like I was able to get like a discount code. So there are programs where you can like this, essentially the finance information is out there. I think it's much harder to acquire the technical scientific information, and either through speaking with people or through finding resources even outside of school, or actually just asking professors like, hey, like, do you have any books you would read? That type of thing, podcasts they listen to, those type of non-traditional resources are really helpful.
What is like the most favorite thing that you about your work, or the impact of your work? What whatever your company does, or what you do in your current role.
Oh, can I just answer this question from Chad? Do you need to be familiar with finance to do what I'm doing? Not particularly. Like everything finance wise, I could have learned on the job. It was my desire to come in and more knowledgeable and prep, and because I was also going into the hedge fund world before that, so I was prepping for that as well. I think it was really helpful to know a bit and have that background, but like I also was studying some part of the wrong things before I got here. So, and it varies client by client, and what each company needs is different. So essentially with every project and everything you do, your skills you need are going to evolve, and like what you learn and what you're doing is going to evolve. But net, everything you need to know, you can learn on the job.
To answer John's question, in regards to the best part of the current role I'm in, or the work that I do, just recently I was managing one of the clients that we have, the finances for the client. And it was very interesting. Like I see these names and I'm invoicing the clients, and but it was very interesting. We had a presentation, a presenter from a pharmaceutical company, and there's this new device that is used to detect type 1 diabetes as young as 6 years old. So that was interesting to know that I was a part of it, and it's finally went to the market now. And I'm excited to see the impact that it has. So within the pharmaceuticals advertising industry, it's really nice to see certain, advertisements and commercials, and, you kind of get the inside scoop on new technologies, new advancements within the healthcare space. And then you get to see how that impacts a large population of people. So that's and then something that we really advocate for, and like that is a driving force for Havas, for example, is human purpose. And that's been like a focus with all of the projects and that we have with all of our clients. So that's something that I really enjoy about the work that I do. So yeah.
Yeah, and to add to what she just said, it's the ability to contribute to advancement in science, while also ensuring that the breakthrough reaches the people who need them. Earlier, I was watching TV and I saw an advertisement about ritlecitinib, which is a product that I worked on with my team. Like, felt proud to see the advertisement for it, and the people that need it are gonna be able to use it. So yeah, that makes me really.
Yeah, I think I want to, I think echoing Yoan as well, I think being able to help others is like the big piece for me. And I think especially like if you can use your own skills to help others and really magnify your impact. So I think that's like super cool. Whether it's, and so I think some people are working on, like, they're dedicating their life in their master's work, their PhD, postdoc work to work on a specific science. And I think it's a shame if that science, if it could really help people and help the world, doesn't actually make its way out of the lab. And so in certain cases, especially if it's related to climate or life sciences or human health, et cetera, like then there's people in kind of similar roles as me, where we help those scientists commercialize their technologies. And it's really kind of bringing those technologies and like the impact of that to life. And so for me, it's like, I think it's a dream job for me to be able to help magnify my impact using my skills, sharing kind of what I've learned about business, or how you like kind of build a business model, or how you build kind of financial kind of analyses around a certain technology. And if like those things that I can help scientists with can bring those technologies out of the lab and actually like impact people and do good for the world, I think that is enormously like satisfying and impactful.
I guess though those this is really exciting to hear that, you know, all your work has all of your work has contributed to something that has been beneficial to society. I feel like a lot of people want to have a purpose and a mission for what they want to do, and I feel like, you know, working in the life science industry has demonstrated through from you all, like, you know, you can, you know, contribute, you know, very good to the world. Um, Callista, sorry if I'm butchering that. You raised your hand.
Yeah, hi. I had a question. I wasn't sure if you were taking any like in-person speaking.
You're here now. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
So hi, just to give a bit of context, my name is Callista. I'm currently a sophomore at Columbia too. So hi, Jesse. I'm doing a biology major right now, and I'm also thinking of adding a business management concentration. And a reason why I'm thinking of doing that is because when I looked at the internships and the job openings for all of these business in life science roles, most of them explicitly said that they were looking for business and econ majors instead of life science majors. So I guess I just wanted to get you guys' advice on one, if I do want to go into industry in the future, not in science, is it better to just switch to econ now? Or is it okay to stick to my bio major? And if it is, then how do I tailor my extracurriculars and resumes and cover letters to reflect that like passion, and how can I make myself stand out in that sense? So thank you for your time, by the way.
I just want to make a statement first that whatever the requirements, quote unquote, on a job application, it's a suggestion. It's not actually a requirement. And I think through your cover letter, you could definitely convey your passion. Just tell your story about like yourself, how you got here, why you think your qualities you have would be a good fit for the role. Like, just make sure that comes across. And also, like, my whole pitch was like, that's why I did those extra outside courses, because I was like, you know what, I felt a little bit insecure that I didn't have that. So I went and did a little self-studying.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Nicole is saying as well, don't limit yourself. The best what you will, it's always a competition when you're looking for work, but also when you're at a company, you want to stand out, and you having that science expertise really will set you apart. And if it's something that you're passionate about, there's nothing wrong with having both a background in that on that science side, and, you know, developing new skills on the business side or learning more about it. And then, like Nicole said, those suggestions, as she said, they're suggestions. When I applied for my role, they asked for an economics degree, and I probably took a few economics courses, but my degree was in biology. So it really doesn't affect, you could, like she said, you could really capitalize in your cover letter to make you know, to really market yourself as a very good candidate for whatever role you're applying for.
My comment on how to stand out, I think this goes for whether you're in school or not, is if it's something you're really interested in and you're going to spend time, I would try to find the people who are actually hiring for those roles. It's like people on the other side who are the hiring managers. And if it's companies kind of finding your way to get in front of those people, you can do informational interviews and like coffee chats or whatever. You can ask upperclassmen who've had those internships before, or like recent alums who work at those companies. That's just kind of just general advice if there's any kind of job that you want to apply for, especially if you feel like you're off a little kind of different background than what they're looking for. Kind of echo everything that Nicole and Binta said around that. Those are just suggestions. I think for you tactically, you said you're a sophomore. I think so. I think for your sophomore internship, it's also okay to say like your intention is to do kind of business stuff or like to take on like a business related minor. If you want to put that on your resume, I think that's totally fair game. I mean, I did an econ minor, but I don't know that you learn a lot of business stuff. I think you learn a lot of business stuff from like work experience and like learning outside the classroom. So you can also do projects. If there's projects related to clubs at school, I think that's that warrants putting on your resume and like highlighting. If it's also something you're interested in, I would also begin to tailor your resumes depending on like what type of job and or industry you're applying for. I think that matters a lot because a lot of people, I think, early days will just have like a generalist resume that they use to apply to everything. But then later on, and again, if it's especially for something you care about, the cover letter is a way to manifest kind of your interest, and then to tailor your resume and to focus on the right things there. Like even like the ordering of the different sections on your resume, there's no like set standard. And so if you don't have as many business related things on your resume, or kind of in your classes or your work experience, you can pull up like a project, you can add a project section on your resume and talk about projects where you're doing business related stuff. It could be through a club. It doesn't even have to be a club. It could be something that you're learning as well, like self-study. So anyways, like resumes, I think are very flexible. Yeah, if you're willing to kind of take the time to tailor them and make them specialized to the specific thing that you're applying to.
That's some great advices in terms of that of how to leverage and gain skill sets that are relevant for the workforce. I see Emmanuel, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, hello everybody. So my question is, what are your experiences with marketing in your organizations? Like, for example, if I was a marketer and I wanted to work at, any of your organizations, like what are some issues or some concerns that your organization are facing that like a marketer can come in and like help out with? Like what are some, concerns your organization that you're working in can like use a marketer for?
I actually have a clarifying question for you. Like when you say marketing or marketer, like what specifically are you specifically interested in marketing?
For example, let's say I think you gave an example in the early parts of this meeting that you like helping with, streamline business projects, I think. Like for example, if a marketer was to come into your organization that you're working in, like what is the best way they can help out? Like what are the companies you're working at, what are they looking for?
Yeah, I think maybe as a starting point, I think there's kind of different types of marketing. There's like are you marketing a brand, are you marketing a product, etc. I will say I think a common challenge and something that people don't spend enough time on or kind of attention to in terms of marketing is really understanding their customers. A lot of people when they talk about marketing, they're kind of starting with their product or their brand at the center, and you're like, hey, this is my product and it's awesome because of this reason. But I think, and so a lot of people do that. And I think what people don't do as much is really doing proper customer discovery. And so that's kind of a space that you're interested in, like being really good at understanding what customers are looking for or what people like, what and kind of who your customers are. So there's kind of target customer selection. And then for those people, what are their needs and like their use cases, and understanding that to then design your product marketing or your marketing around. I think that's something that people don't do enough. And so there's a couple of books. There's the Mom Test. You can look at that. Among others, kind of marketing, what is like jobs to be done is another kind of concept related to that you can look into around that.
That's great. I guess we've started the Q&A. If anyone has questions, just drop it in the chat. And we will try to get it in the last like 10 or 12 minutes, time permitting. I see a question from Armin. A question to panelists. I know that all of you have chimed in on bits and pieces of this, but they asked, tips on how to market or advertise yourself to employers when your work experience and academic experience are from different and disconnected fields?
And
Yeah,
I can go ahead and elaborate more on like my own background if that helps you answer the question. But yeah, thank you, Udara, for presenting that to them.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to share more about your background, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm currently a master's student in a biomedical engineering program, and I have work experience as a data engineer. And so both of these kind of came around at the same time. And so I'm kind of struggling on how to rectify the two of them together. I mean, I know for sure data like manipulation is very important to anything relating to biomedical sciences, but I kind of struggle, I guess, to bridge data engineering specifically with like biomedical engineering. So
I actually think we have quite similar experiences just because I was in mechanical and then I dabbled in civil engineering for a little bit. You don't need to have anything that you're concretely taking away from any one experience. It's like overall, like when I spoke about my story personally, I was always like, well, I learned a lot of problem solving skills. I learned how to handle high levels of complexity from my time in engineering. I learned how to stay organized, that type of thing. Like those are the things that I would take away from that experience. And then I would say like, I would always introduce myself and kind of like tell my story and like, well, this is what I learned from this experience. These are the takeaways I had from this experience that have made me an overall better candidate. And that's how I ended up here. It's all like a flow of what you're like, all the different pieces of what you're taking from the different experiences that make you into the ideal candidate for any role.
yeah, just to add on to what Nicole said, instead of tailoring your resume in a technical way, just use all of your experience and what you learned from them on there. Like, let's say for data, you did that data analysis, just put that on there. That's important, whatever software you use. Those technical skills are good and important. Just don't focus on the specific details. Speak a bit more of what you learned, what you used it for.
Yeah, and like it could literally be as broad as I got better at receiving feedback and like incorporating that into your work.
I think it depends on what direction you want to go into and what job you want afterward. Because I think coming back to like Emmanuel's question, right? I think in this case you have to understand, like it's kind of up to you to understand like what skills and what skills are most valued in the direction that you want to go in, and then you craft your story in retrospect, and then you find kind of the relevant pieces of your background, and then you focus on those that are relevant to that customer, right? Where that customer is the employer or like the direction that you want to go in.
I think it's also really valid to say what I learned is that like that wasn't for me. That was like a part of my story.
Thank you for your insights, everyone. I think Harshal,
Yeah, so I kind of have a question based on my interest, but so when it comes to entrepreneurship in general, I feel there's a different culture out there, right? So when you talk about getting an internship and experience from an internship, uh, would you suggest, you know, going into the big companies and doing an internship, or would you suggest, working with startups to understand their culture and everything, and yeah, doing an internship there instead? So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
I think I could jump in here when it comes to, because I was fortunate enough to work with a startup. That was one of my internships with LifeSci, and then currently at a much more bigger company. We're talking 10,000 plus employees worldwide. So I think it has its pros and cons. But I would say that the legwork I did at the startup really helped set me apart from, I joined the fellowship with Havas when I joined, and not everyone makes the cut. It's a 12-month long fellowship, but if you are not performing where you should be at the 12-month mark, then unfortunately some people get let go. So it has its pros and cons. Yes, it'll be you will have more responsibilities at startups, but it doesn't take away from the fact that sometimes with bigger companies, it may be harder to implement change, I would say. There are certain systems that have been placed for bigger companies and they've been working with it for 10 plus years. Some of my colleagues have been working there for 20 years. But with startups, it's really your chance to not only be a part of something that's growing and will soon become a big company, or just make a mark in whatever industry it is in, but it will also help you get more on your creative side and implement new ideas and help really get the business off the ground. So it's very, I can't really say startups versus a big company, but there's literally a plethora of opportunities that you can get from both. And I'm just speaking from being on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, if you have a chance, you should do both, because working at a startup gives you the opportunity to kind of voice your ideas and what you want to change, what you want to do, and then going into industry, into a bigger company, you have the courage to actually speak it and say what's going on, what's wrong, and getting heard. And that's a really good thing in industry. It gets you the promotion, the other job, or gets you up there. So you should do both if you have a chance. It's not a question of choosing.
Yeah, I guess I would just say I've never worked on the startup side, so I can't speak from personal experience, but this is advice I received when I was looking for jobs. Essentially that startups, they're much leaner, much more like scrappy. So if you're looking for training, if you're looking to be really supported in this role, then that's not the environment. That's what you're gonna get from a larger company. And so that's why I went with a large organization where, because it's a subsidiary, it's still like relatively small. I think we're somewhere between 40 to 50 people. And I generally work on like client account teams of 3 people, but like it is nice knowing that there's a larger team behind me. There are a bunch of different people I can go to ask if I have questions. Like I'm not the only IR person.
Thank you, guys.
I guess like one last question. We have a couple of minutes left. Leandra said that she graduated with the anthropology degree. Doesn't hear about many anthropologists working in marketing and business sector in college. Do you think those skills from anthropology transfer well into this sector, so that can be expanded upon other social sciences and I guess non-business type degrees? Yeah.
I can add into this one more. One of our prerequisites for becoming a bio major at Hunter is you had to take anthropology courses. And then that was just the bio track that I took. One thing to know about anthropology is that literally you're studying human beings and you're studying different species. That doesn't change. At any role you're in, you're going to be studying human beings. You're going to be learning relationships and nicks and quirks of everybody that you work with. So it's such a degree that I feel will make you, it's versatile, so we can apply in any sort of way. Like I said, and some of the panelists, it's more so using those skills that you gather from your degree. You may not find a junior anthropologist role in the business of healthcare. You may not ever find that, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Havas did have something like an anthropology track. I could look into it for you, but I definitely saw one. Actually, when we had a Havas event, Business of Biopharma event, went many years back. So I could definitely look into that and then give you my email, and then we could definitely connect on that. But it's such a versatile degree, and I feel like the opportunities are pretty much endless. You can apply those skills. It's just like the courses that we mentioned earlier. It's not necessarily the course, but the skills you learn from it that can really be applied to this industry and others as well.
That's great. I think we're, out of time. I want to thank, the panelists again for such great insights and advice. And, it was very nice hearing everybody's different background and trajectory within this broad thing that we call business and marketing and life sciences. So once again, I want to thank, the panelists and thank everyone that came here to listen on to this panel. Hope everyone has a good night.